To all the Kemi talkers, I want to tell you a story that you need to learn from. Today is the 29th of July, 2025. Parts of this story was also told to me by my parents, especially my father. And in school, they taught us a little bit, but not everything. But now that it's 2025, 59 years later, I think I can tell it better than anybody else because now I'm a retired journalist and I was in the story. I've been writing so many books and I've never finished any because I read a lot of books as a student in school, pharmacy, journalism, and PR. So I don't like writing anymore, but I'll finish this book. This book is called The Children of 1966. There were quite a few of us in 1966 who were involved in that coup. Nigeria was just like a bad time. I want you to see the story from my point of view. Everybody has their own version of their own side of the story. I was about to turn 2 years old. And I remember at that time, when I was one and a half, Femi Fani-Kayode was maybe 3, 4 years old. The 1966 coup that happened 59 years ago in January, 15th of January, had a counter coup. Now, the counter coup happened in July. And today is a very, very important day in Nigerian history. And I'm so disappointed that some of the media that actually talked about today did not mention my uncle's name. Arise News. You celebrated General Ironsi on your newscast and what's trending with OG Okpe, but somebody forgot to tell OG that two important people were killed on that day. Yes, Arise, Ruben Abati, I'm sending this to you, and I'm going to tag you, Rufai and OG. This is why they should have never taken Nigerian history out of schools. Now, let me tell you about my uncle, and let me just tell you what happened. I'll have some things at the end of this video. I've told you so many times that I'm related to a lot of famous people in Nigeria, through blood or through marriage, but I just happen to be the one that's related to all of them. One of them is, Colonel Adekunle Fajuyi. Okay, Lieutenant Colonel Adekunle Fajuyi was my grand uncle. Kind of like my mom and his wife were like niece and, aunt. So my mom would call Auntie Odun. That's what she called his wife, and I would call her Grand Auntie Odu. Auntie Odu never remarried. Okay, let me tell you what happened in that counter coup. After the Tafa Balewa coup, that they killed Tafa Balewa and they killed a whole bunch of people, that whole northern coup thing, the northerners thought that the Igbos came and did that coup, so they had to revenge. So on the 29th of July, 1966, there was a bloodbath. And I want everybody to listen because these are the things that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu has been talking about, and none of you really understand it. And this is one of the reasons why they have him locked up behind bars there. It's not just all this Biafra stuff, okay? Half of the shit they locked Mazi Nnamdi Kanu for is not Biafra. If you don't like it, you can go to fucking hell and curse me in the comments. The curses in the comments usually come back to you. I'm going to tell you the truth about Nigeria. There's not a lot like me. Okay? When I'm gone from this earth one day, you'll say, Dr. Kemi said it. Nnamdi Kanu tried to educate a lot of you from where the stem of hatred happened in this Nigeria. When Aguyi Ironsi took over Nigeria, from the ones they executed, Tafa Balewas and everybody, Ladoke Akintola was the premier of Western Region. He was my father's boss. My father was the youngest commissioner in that administration. The deputy premier was Fani-Kayode, Remi Fani-Kayode, Femi's father. So they lived in the deputy governor's house and the governor's house. And at the end of the day, I personally and all the Fani-Kayode daughters and Femi were all playmates as kids because my dad was that 26-year-old commissioner, 30-year-old commissioner that was working for their dad. It was very early as commissioners. I was born when my father was like 29, 30. So at that time, when that government was gone, they killed Akintola, they killed so many people, Sadana of Sokoto, everything. The people that took over was Aguyi Ironsi, and he had his own cabinet, military government, the first military government. Ironsi had administrators for every state. The Western region was now headed by Adekunle Fajuyi. That was our so-called governor there. Okay, Lieutenant Colonel Adekunle Fajuyi was my uncle, like I said, my grand uncle. So at the end of the day, his own children were very young and everything. Believe it or not, on 29th of July 1966, there's a lot of people talking outside, ignore that background voice. Um, the Hausas, who thought that the Igbos orchestrated that coup in January, decided that they're going to get revenge. So they headed to one place in Benue State where a lot of Igbos were. They lived there, they settled there, they did their trades there, and that place was called Markudi. Markudi, Benue State. The counter coup, they went and killed all the Igbos in Markudi. They slaughtered Igbos. I mean, the sea of red. If we had drones at that time, and if you had a drone above, you just see a sea of red. That's what they call it in archives, the sea of red. Blood everywhere. They just massacred the Igbos. That's what the Hausa did. So if Kanu is telling you about what you need to know about the Fulanis and the Hausas and all that, he has a touch of history there. No one's saying you should hate them. But what he's saying is he's trying to teach you history. I just sat down and I was watching this man, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. Those are the reasons why Buhari threw him behind bars now. You can't erase that from history. The Hausa slaughtered the Igbos. I mean, they killed an entire generation of Igbos mercilessly. Open fire. Kilodze. In that counter coup, they now wanted to kill the Igbo leader. This is where it gets crazy. Here we are in Ibadan, sitting jejely when Lieutenant Colonel Adekunle Fajuyi decided to host the head of state. Do you know what that means? If the president is coming to your town or your city, that's a big thing. You got to host them and all that. And in the days of Buhari, we didn't see a whole lot of going to other states, being hosted and all. He did some things, commissioning of this and that. In those days, you weren't commissioning anything. You just came by and saw people, ordinary Nigerians. They lined the streets, you wave goodbye to them. He'll go out. That was it. It wasn't like we're commissioning some big rubbish that would make the people think we're taking care of the economy and the state or the roads or something. So, and they stayed at Government House. So my uncle, Adekunle Fajuyi, was hosting Ironsi. In the middle of the ball, the party and everything, all of a sudden the army walked in. I mean, they came in droves, and they took away my uncle. It was Ironsi they took away, the head of state. These army guys just came in. Wait, Ironsi is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. Which army is this? Who are these coup plotters? They came in and took Ironsi. And you know what my uncle said? My uncle said, no, you can't take him. I'm going with you guys. He refused. So he went with them. They took them into the bushes in Iwo Road. Some of you young people watching, I want you to comment in Ibadan. Many of you know Iwo Road. In the bushes of Iwo Road, where they tortured them. After torturing them, they now shot them both in the head. Do you know who did that? Theophilus Danjuma. That's why I don't like Danjuma. You know, I always talk about Theophilus Danjuma. Danjuma was the one that killed the coup plotters, thinking that, okay, yeah, they took over the government. So when Danjuma finished killing them, he grabbed his walkie-talkie and he just called Yakubu Gowon. Mission done. You can't make history up. So Gowon became the head of state the next day. Just like that. And in 1967, in Ado Ekiti, my uncle was buried. At the end of this video, I'll leave you some black and white shots of the burial. Gowon was there. The people that killed him, they were there. Awolowo was sitting there, and Awolowo was like so upset looking. Awolowo was once Minister of Finance during the Biafra War and everything, but Awolowo worked for Yakubu Gowon and kept food away from Biafra. You need to know history. Okay, all those Igbo kids you see with kwashiorkor and big stomachs and bones showing on their body, they were denied food, and Awolowo prevented food. He made a food blockade. Okay, no one's going to tell you the truth that like I am. My father was in that government, okay, the Balewa government. But watch Awolowo's face and everything. I took this from some archives. The people that killed these people were there. Can you imagine? So at Risings, I was quite upset too. We lost our Western, military leader who sacrificed his own life to go with the head of state, that they were not going to take him. and they killed them both. Our head of state, Aguyi Ironsi, my uncle in the middle, Lieutenant Colonel Adekunle Fajuyi, and Theophilus Danjuma, who killed them both after torturing them in the bushes. I think this is Yakubu Gowon, but somebody said it's General Adebayo. That's Awolowo's wife in the background, the woman sitting behind. Help me, somebody. This is Awolowo. He was Minister of Finance during Biafra War, kept all the food from the Igbos. A lot of Igbos were massacred in that same countercoup. They all came to the funeral. This is the hypocrisy in Nigeria. That's the band, the Nigerian Army and Police Band, bringing the body into the stadium in Ado-Ekiti in 1967. And that's my uncle's casket as he's about to be laid to rest. They had a state funeral for him, of course, in the stadium in Ado-Ekiti. That's Auntie Odu on the right there. That's her mom next to her. And some military general, I don't know. But it's just like a really big mess. Don't know who this man is, but I just took a clip. It was very touching. And these are people I knew very early in my life. But I got to know Auntie Odun before she passed away. This is her next to Tinubu. I did a story about them because Tinubu built her a house in Lagos when he was governor. They left her like with no money, nothing. The army basically bankrupted and forgot about her.